Okay, we're recording. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so we're going to do this PHP forms project like I talked about as a class. But if you look, literally you have the form and the email update.sh already there that you can download. So that's what those are right there. And then the rest of it is stuff that you just need to work with to add those pieces in with it. So you just need to create a contact us form, and then it feeds to this form PHP. There's a script, that's your email update, and then you have your header and footer. And I think between all of us, we can put it together. And then, you guys are welcome to work with each other in a group and talk to each other about stuff. And we're going to push this out. So it's due, let's see, today, this 17th, 24th, on the 24th. Because this is a lot more complicated, I think, than we gave it time for. So let me open up. If you've got it on there, open up your XAMPP control panel and then open your Visual Studio. And then I'm just going to open my folder. And have it load here. Let me stop share so I can share my. No, that's not what I wanted you to do.
Don't forget on the exam to start Apache and SQL.
Yeah, I've got it started already because I was working on it. Okay, so this is what that form PHP looks like. And I've when you first look at it, it might have the comments condensed, but they have comments on what everything is actually doing. So a lot of this is already done for you guys out there. And this bash email update.sh, as long as you have that in the same folder, that's the one that's out there in a zip file that you can download. Excuse me. And I drink hot tea, but so do you guys know how to do these? I'll explain this up here on the top. This is where you set your stuff so it connects to your SQL database. So you can name these basically anything you want. You just have to keep them consistent. So in this case, you'll want your host as localhost because we're working on our computer. On here, you can just use Kali, that's fine. And you can use contact us DB, but these three are just ones that you set however you want to set up. Now this is your connection string. And then you say, hey, MySQL, I want to connect to this and I want to use these to connect to. Now, when you run this, I don't know if it'll show you. Okay, when mine runs, let me hit stop share so you can actually see the screen that it popped up. There it is. It'll pop up this and say, hey, okay, I connected to the database, I'm good. And you just press any key and then you're okay to move on to work on whatever it is you're working on. Now, this is just for your stuff to create your values for your form. And this is, your value one. We're trying to make it super simple. Where's the any key? The enter key. I'm just kidding. So we have first name, last name, phone number, web address, email, and comments in this one. And then SQL, you're going to use an insert statement. So we're going to insert into contact these, and then, we have to set the values. So those values that are entered, we're going to put those right there. And then there's about a code that says, okay, I'm going to check and make sure that it actually was successful. And if it's not, it'll give an error message that the data wasn't sent. And you can see there's an if else section here. Gwen, you should be familiar with this. Okay, that's funny. Alt F4. So the first one is your successful. And then your second one is your error code. And then you run your close. This closes your connection to the database. And then it will send, this is your update, email update, SH, and then it sends that. Yeah, Gwen's like, this is familiar. So yeah, so that's for the form PHP. Okay.
Yeah, this would have definitely I'm gonna have to redo what I've got because I was pissing into the wind with this one.
I'm sorry, I thought you guys saw this out there. It's out there for everybody to download. So it would have saved you guys a lot of time. And I realized that some of you probably were, reinventing the wheel and didn't realize this whole thing was literally out there for you to work with. So that and the email .sh are out there. So you didn't actually have to do any of that. You just had to add it in there. So Gwen, you said you've got your header and footer. Do you want to share that with us? Oh, I should probably add it for multi-share. If you don't mind. That's cool. We'll work through it together. Cool. Thank you. Oh, and you're using a bootstrap. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of grabbed stuff from the website that I built from the other project.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would do that. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. Okay, and there's your nav bar. Yeah, no, this looks great. And then let's take a look at your, you said you had your footer?
Title
sorry.
Necrocorp. Something you want to tell us, Gwen?
They did a, it's this cool like D&D thing they did for their project.
Yeah, I built a necromancer website.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It made me laugh.
Makes sense. That was not where I thought it was something like a mortuary.
No. No, that would be a funny name for a mortuary though. No, this looks great. This looks great. So this is an excellent example for your header and footer.
I can also share how.
Yeah, show us what you're doing for your contact us.
Oh, not that.
I think it's
Yeah. There we go. So I wasn't sure if we had to like copy over the contact form that we had made. So I did that just in case, but I put the PHP stuff for the header and the footer right here.
That's nice. That works just fine. And it looks like you commented out everything that you, okay, that's good.
The nav bar, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
and
this
there's
is
your
a
contact form. There it is. You got your divs.
yeah, this is a long page. I also have in my form, I have a drop down section. So,
Yeah, and if you for yours, you can go ahead and do that. Now, if you run this, does it pop stuff up for you?
let's see. It does say for 404 not found. The requested resource was not found on the server.
Do you have your two what do you call it, Apache and SQL? Do you have those running?
Yep. Although I did have an issue with the MySQL earlier. I had to apparently I had another application that was running my SQL and I had to disable that. So yeah.
Okay.
Can you run it from localhost? Like you log or jump to internet and
Yeah,
log
yeah,
on to
like we were
localhost and
doing.
check it from there?
Yeah, just
Uh,
type in localhost, open up like Google or whatever and type in, like I have mine copied in. Let me stop sharing here. If I can get this to. Thank you. On mine, it's actually at that folder, so that if I go out and type in, mine's not complete, but you can
Yeah,
actually see. Look,
I
there's
don't think
nothing
I
there, but I do have it out there in the website. So
I don't actually think I have that.
did you install the examp thing?
Yep, I did this morning.
Okay, it usually installs that under, let me see, C examp. And then there's a folder called HT docs.
Okay.
And then if you create a folder in there, that's where your local stuff goes. So you can create, like I have one just called website one. You can create whatever you want in there.
I think that, yeah, I think that's the issue because I started this project yesterday and I downloaded examp this morning.
Gotcha.
So I might just have to move it.
Is it downloads? No, there it is. This is what I've got in mind. It's just under, I just created examp HT docs is where you'll put it in there. And then I have website one, and that's just the one that I'm playing with. And then you'll just dump everything in there. And then when you go to localhost, it should allow you to see that. And then when you start up examp, make sure that, can you see how Apache and MySQL are started over here? Make sure that Apache and MySQL are started. And I pinned mine to my toolbar. And it worked faster for me than the other options did. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Start those two up, dump them out in your stuff out in that folder, and then you can go from there. But I will say that, to save you guys some time, go get that form PHP and email.sh, which you can just straight download from Blackboard week 9. So you don't have to do that part. Then all you have to do is your header and footer, and then you just create yourself a contact form page, which is just like an HTML page to route that through. So that's really what we need to work on together, is the header footer and the contact us form. So hopefully that seems a little less daunting. Does that seem a little less daunting? And after seeing some of what Gwen did, does that make a little more sense to people? Yay, nay? We're still gonna cry in a corner? Yay? Okay,
I mean, we were always gonna cry in a corner.
that's true. That is kind of our like classroom sharing activity. Um,
If Gwen
I-
hadn't done the programming camp, she'd be crying in a corner with us.
that's
Just
true.
she's got this nifty background in this, so right
Yeah,
now she's
I
riding on
personally
cloud
don't
nine.
like PHP. If we were doing this in ASP.NET and C#, I could probably run all sorts of circles around things and it would make a lot more sense to me. But PHP makes me want to cry, so that's why it's been difficult for me too.
I will say I got most of my crying done in boot camp.
Yeah. I cried in boot camp. Sorry about that, boot camp. So I didn't have to cry here. I don't love that cough. Sorry. It is better though. They gave me a nebulizer thing with steroids in it that I get to do twice a day. So yay. Okay. Hopefully this will help. Gwen cried so we could run. Okay. That's a little more accurate than I'd like to admit. Gwen, you're kind of like a tier above everyone else on this class, I have to tell you.
That's good because I don't feel like I am.
Gee, I don't know if you like if Gwen would like to be compared to Jesus. Although, you know, if you think of Jesus like a necromancer because he was reborn, then you know, maybe. Okay. So let's do this. We'll consider this a work group. Now what? Let me go look at our videos that we have out here. Why don't we watch the creating a database in MySQL video together today? Does that sound good? And then next, we will work on, I'd like you guys to work together on the header, footer, and form pages. That's all you really need to do. The other stuff should be all created for you. That is not due. I will put the due dates. I'll fix those, put them out there. And I will rearrange things for the weekly assignments for you guys. That's why we're allowed to rearrange things on our calendar when stuff happens so that we can cover more things. So today, let me go out and get that and we will watch it and talk about it together. Since we'll need to do pieces of that for this as well. Let me open that up. Let me share it so you guys can actually see it. Please let me know if you, let me turn on captions if you can't hear it. Can you guys see that okay? All right.
So today we're going to do something very exciting because we're going to start talking about databases and how to handle data inside a website. Because when you start doing that, that's the moment where you really start to make a website more dynamic rather than making a static website, which is something that basically means that you have a website that doesn't really change depending on which user is watching the website. So when you have a dynamic website, all of a sudden you can start changing content, or if you were to hand off a website to a client, they can start changing content themselves if you want them to be able to do that. That is actually something that I don't think a lot of people realize, that when you start learning how to make websites and you want to become a web developer and you think to yourself, okay, so I'm going to start making websites for people, but when you hand over a website and they have to make a change to, let's say, a title, paragraph, or maybe they want a image updated or something, then all of a sudden they have to contact you because you can't give them a website and then teach them HTML, CSS so they can change things themselves. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So you have to be able to make a website that is dynamic. We can allow people to change content themselves without having to know HTML or CSS in order to do so. For example, if you want to create a blog inside a website and you want the client to be able to upload a new blog post by themselves without having to contact you every single time. That is going to be an example of something you can start doing when it comes to learning PHP together with a database. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about how to set up a database and what exactly it is. Databases sound so dry when you say it out loud like that. It's not. It's quite fun once you get into it. And when you really start seeing content change, it gets a lot of fun. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that when you go inside your exam that we installed in the second episode, I do believe that you do have both the Apache and the MySQL server running, because the first server here, which is the Apache server, is going to be the web server where we have PHP running. The second one is going to be the actual database server. So this one has to be running in order for us to access our database with the exam that we installed. Because you do have a database installed as well, other than just PHP on a server. So this is something that you do have already. We don't have to do anything special in order to set up a database. We just have to open it, basically. Just a small quick tip for you, because I don't think I mentioned this in the first episode where we installed exam. You can actually go inside the config menu here, and you can actually make it so that the software auto starts these servers when you open up the program. So you can just tick these off right here, and then you can click save. Now, if it gives you an error message, it is because you need to run this software here as administrator. So the basic way to do that would be to go inside your exam installation, go down, find your exam dash control, right click, properties, and then basically just go in here inside the compatibility and set this one to run this program as administrator. If you do that, then it's going to allow you to set these up as auto start without giving an error message. So with that done, let's go ahead and talk a bit about something called a relational database management system, RDBMS for short. You don't have to memorize that. It's just so you know. Okay, so we have many different types of database systems out there, which is what we call a RDBMS. And the one we're using is the one called MySQL, which is also the most popularly used one when it comes to databases with websites, especially if you're using PHP. But there are many different types of database systems out there. That, some people watching these tutorials may be using something else, but if you install exam, you will be using MySQL for this tutorial. Most of the time, if you do actually have an online server from a hosting company, you will also be using MySQL, just to mention. So it is the most commonly used one, which is also why we're going to be using that one for these lessons. And just to debunk something here, because I know I will get some comments asking about this, because it is something I've seen in previous videos, MySQL servers are not the same thing as MySQL PHP functions, okay? So before people start typing in comments that MySQL is outdated and it's unsafe to use, then it's not the same thing as PHP MySQL functions, okay? It's two completely separate things. So we don't need to worry about using a MySQL database, okay? That is something that is very commonly used and is not unsafe in any sort of way. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open up my browser, and inside my browser, I can go up and type localhost, just like we do when we actually want to enter a website, but instead of saying / the name of the website, in this case, I'm going to write PHP my admin. And if I type that and click enter, you'll see that we enter our database system. So PHP my admin is going to be the dashboard that you're going to use in order to manage your database. And you can actually see that we have many different types of databases on the side here. You're not going to worry about these ones that you have over here. You may not have PHP tutorial because I actually created that myself at some point. But don't worry about these databases that we have over here. You just need to know that any database you create will be over here on the side. So what you can see is we do actually have quite a few tabs up here. You don't need to start freaking out about, oh no, there's so many things going on in here, because we're not going to be using all these tabs up here. Do also keep in mind that you do actually see some information about your web server. So you can actually see what PHP version you're using. So right now I'm actually using 8.2.0. So this is actually some information about your server. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to create a database for our tutorials here. So what I'll do is I'll go up to databases in the top here. And then you can see we can type in the name of a database. So we can just come up with any sort of name, of course, a name that makes sense. As you can see with these databases down here, there is kind of like a naming convention. So don't use weird symbols or something like that. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and say my first database, just so we have something, right? Then you can just go ahead and click create. And then you can see we have a database added to the side over here. Now, as a default, it is actually going to be selected once you create it the first time, but you can also see we can swap between them and actually see some of the other databases that we have here. So we can actually click back and forward. But for now, let's just go ahead and select the one we just created called My First Database. Now, inside of here, you can see this is quite empty. Like there's nothing going on in here because we just created a completely empty and fresh database. And what you can do in here is a couple of things. First of all, you can import database data from somewhere else. If you have an existing database that you want to import in here, or we can just go ahead and create a database from scratch. We will be doing the latter because we will be creating things ourselves. And there is a couple of ways we can go around doing that. I do want to point out here that
I am perfectly fine with you doing this instead of going through and doing like the hard back end coding. Just because this is simpler.
now it says no tables found in database. The first thing you need to know about a database is that we have data inside a database. So for example, let's say I have an in system inside my website, and in order to have that, we need to have users signing up inside our website. And with that logic, we do also need to be able to save that user information somewhere. For example, the username, the password they used, maybe an email address, maybe what date they signed up inside the website. We can save all kinds of information about our user. And that is what we use a database for, because whenever the website has to remember something inside our website, we use a database to save that information about whatever we want to save inside our website. And in order to make that a little bit easier, we create something called tables, because instead of just taking all our data, putting them inside our database, there has to be some sort of structure going on. So we want to maybe create a table that is called users, where we have all the user information. We might also have a table called comments. So we have all the different comments the user made inside our website, inside that table. So basically a table is a place where we gather similar information about something inside our website. And we do have two ways we can create that. Either we can go down here and do this in the confusing way. At least I think this is the confusing way. This is also the way that I see most people do this when they start out making a database. But you can go down here where it says create new table, and you can actually type in a name. So in this case, I can just say users, because we use that as an example. And then I'm going to say how many columns do I want, which basically means how many different pieces of information about this user do I want to save. So in this case, I can say 5, which is ID, username, password, the date they signed up, an email address, so we have some information about them. And if I were to click create here, you can see we get this very confusing table they can start filling out. So basically these are going to be the names. So like I said, we can have an ID, we can have a username, we can also have a password. We can start filling in the names for all these different columns, what they're called inside our database. But the problem here is that there's a lot of information that you don't really need right now to know about. So this is only going to confuse people even more. So what we'll do instead is I want to go back. So we can go back inside where it says structure, and then you can see, oh, we have unsaved changes. Are you sure you want to leave? Yeah, let's not worry about this right now. What we're going to do instead is we're going to go ahead and create all our data using SQL code. So we're going to do everything manually, which is also going to be very useful, because once you start talking about how to change our database and talk together with the database using PHP from our website directly, you will need to know SQL code in order to do that. So there's no better place to practice SQL than directly inside a database. So hey, let's do that instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here in the top where you can see we have something called SQL do make sure that your database is selected. Otherwise, this is not going to be SQL code that you write for that particular database, because I sometimes see people who have another database selected or no database selected. So make sure that your new database is selected and then click SQL. Now, SQL code is actually quite simple to write. A lot of people find it a little bit intimidating to start with, but it's actually quite simple. And of all the SQL you may look up and try to learn, there is typical SQL, like very few lines of code that we use over and over and over and over again. So it's not like you have to learn a lot of code, just like if you had to learn PHP, for example. It's quite simple, and there's not a lot of code you have to learn for now. But this is the tab that we're going to be using in the next video when we actually start learning how to create a table together. So we're going to take this video by video. We're just going to do one step at a time, chronologically, as we're making this database. Really what we have to do here is just create a table, and that's pretty much it for now. But although we could take this table we create in the next video and use it directly inside our website, I do want to use this particular SQL editor here to just kind of show you how to do various things using SQL, because you're going to be using the exact same SQL inside your PHP code. So the best place to practice it is doing it inside this database here. I do also want to point out that even though we are going to have a couple of lessons here where we're not really going to write any PHP code, and this is a PHP course, this is the other side of the coin when it comes to learning PHP. So if you don't know this stuff here, then you're missing out on half of what PHP can actually do in order to make your website really cool. So learning about databases and learning PHP with it is something that is necessary when you're learning PHP for the first time. So this is going to be a couple of lessons of just SQL programming, essentially, but it's going to be very worthwhile to learn. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Excuse me. Okay. No, I don't want you to stop. All right, let's see if it'll actually. Okay, so this is what he was talking about. So, let's see. And there you have your, you can create it straight from there instead of having to do it. And that, Gwen, that might actually help with yours if you try to create it in here and then save it in your, that'll save it in that folder. And that might function a little bit more smoothly. Let me close this. Even though we have the code to create it, to connect to it, there's not an actual database. I don't think that it actually is connecting to, so that might be why it is giving you the finger. So I would create one called Contact Us DB. And then you can run the stuff out of, let's see. Then you can do the, hopefully it'll make that a little bit easier and we can play with it from there. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Are you more confused, less confused? Let me stop sharing. I'm not. It's better. Okay, good. Normal amount of confusion. Gustavo, we're talking about, it's not gonna be due on Sunday. We're gonna push it out a week. Because there's just so much on here. And we're gonna do it basically as a class project, so you guys can all work together, we can work together. And yeah, there's a lot of okay, thank goodness on that one. So everyone can work together and rewatch the video. There's some chunks on the front of here that should help you out. So and don't forget, there's that form PHP and the other stuff that you just download to work with. And that should help there as well. Yes, poor Gwen. Please be nice to Gwen. Buy all the things for Gwen, you know. But anyway, so this is what we're going to be working on. Well, dude, that's what happens when you have COVID. I'm impressed that you're still coming to class. So you have kudos in my book, because when I had COVID, hi Kitty of much meowing. You're like bacon, 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 feed me bacon. So you making it to class is good, and we'll get you going from there. Yes, Kitty. Okay. Oh, loud kitty. Loud kitty is loud. Oh, she's still mad I don't have more bacon. I love how it just disappears part of the kitty. There's the face. She's my smallest cat. She's also my loudest cat. Oh, good Lord. She's 5 pounds on a good day. Yes, she does. That's why I love your Dritz kitty, because I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like Dot. Okay, so I'm sorry. The more I talk, the worse the cough gets. So, watch the 2 videos that are listed out there for this week. They do help you a great deal. Use that PHP My Admin. It's a lot easier than just trying to do it straight from the back end. Talk to each other. We'll work through this, but just kind of chill and work through as much as you can. And we will be extending it and doing an SQL PHP combo next week, because that's kind of what the back end portion of this requires. I am going to stop recording here in a minute, and I will talk to you guys more about homework and some labs here. But do we have any questions before I stop recording? Nope, to the don't, nope. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.